Hello. Why do I feel like every week these vlogs get more and more unprofessional? So today's week 3. It's Monday and I'm just going to be working on developing my ideas. I've made myself a little to-do list. Come look at it. So we're at my desk. Let's put you here. So here's my trusty dusty to-do list notebook. Today I'm going to be focusing on finding a font group that I want to go onto my blog and also in my videos. I also need to write up what I did in week 1, 2 and this week into the blog entries. I'm gonna create a better storyboard and it's really exciting. We found this software that looks really good for storyboarding. I'll go through it later. I need to find some documentaries that I took inspiration from as well, just to note that down and find some shots that I really like to recreate. I also have some footage from one of my friends who does karting and I'm going to mock that up into just a little show reel of his footage. Those are the 5 things I want to do mainly this week, but I'm going to get started on some of them today. I'm going to start by writing up what I did in week 1 and 2 and starting to write up what I'm going to do this week. I'm also going to put week 1 and week 2's vlog into my blog and then I'll probably start looking at inspiration. I will see you in a minute. Goodbye. Hello, it's me again. Super quick side note. This is my lunch today. I'm having leftover noodles from, I think it's called Moonlight, somewhere in town. It's delicious. Hello. Why is it so hard? Sorry it's in my lap, but delicious noodles. Yummy, yummy. So here's what I've got done today. I made a start on my new and improved shot list. It looks like this, and it took me a couple of hours to figure out this software, but I really like it. This isn't sponsored or anything, but I am really enjoying this app. It's called Wonder Unit and it's really good for like making little animations of what you want to have for each shot. It's also really good for animating people and chairs and just like doors, cupboards, things like that. It also has a lot of poses that you can have for the characters that are in your scene. So I've made a little sitting animation for my character here. I also drew out the little car animation as well because I wasn't too sure how to animate a car. I've got part way through it. Of course, those are just the first couple shots. It's the evening now, so obviously tomorrow I'll have more time to fully get that under works. But yeah, that's all I've had time to do today. So I will see you tomorrow. Hello, it's the next day. It's Wednesday now. No, it's not. It's Tuesday now. And today I'm going to be looking at different types of inspiration, like colour schemes and fonts and shots that I like from other people's stuff. So I'm going to be using a few different websites to help me with this. I'm going to start with Film Grab just to look at like different shots and different like colour schemes of shots that I like. I've made myself a little setup, let me show you. So here's my setup for today. I've got 3 things that I want to look at. Obviously it's going to look a little bit prettier when I'm done, and I'm going to be looking at Film Grab first. So I'm going to get started on that and I'll see you in a bit just to talk through everything. So see ya. This website, Film Grab, is actually really good because it's giving me a lot of inspiration, not just for shots, but for colour schemes as well. I've only found 2 that I really like at the minute. One is quite a cool toned, icy cold vibes, and the other's like very red, blue, very harsh colours. So it's giving me a lot of inspiration into which direction I'd like to take my documentary. I'm thinking more, since it's racing, since it's quite hardcore, I'm thinking more of like the reds and the harsh dark blues, blacks, things like that, oranges. So yeah, so far so good. So we're just going to keep pushing through that and then I'll be moving on to looking at like little clips with shots that I like the look of. Hi everyone, I'm back again. So I've been looking at different documentaries and studying the way that they pace out their narrative. So for example, 4 Wide Sprint Car documentary. These are my notes. So this documentary has 4 sections. It's only 8 minutes long, which is around the sort of time I want to be, between 10 and 12 minutes. So this is pretty much how I want to space mine out. So it starts with an introduction that lasts around 1 minute 35 seconds, and that includes like a title. It has like an introduction to the driver, just some b-roll shots with voiceovers. Then it goes into some context, talking about the driver's family, which lasts around 3 minutes 10-15 seconds. And this is talking about his family and the struggles he's had with money and how he got into motorsports in general. The next section talks about setting up the car. This is around 1 minute and 40 seconds long. This just talks about how he wants to win the small leagues and then go up from there. This is based around the mechanic and how the mechanic views the races and the driver and how he'd like to win the Little League races. And then we move on to the test race. This section is the longest section out of all 4. And this section is around 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Now this has footage from what I believe to be qualifying, and it's clips of the car going around the track and the driver and the mechanic talking live about what's happening with the car and how it feels and how it's looking really good. This is like the height of the narrative. We're sort of looking at how it's going well for the team, things are looking up. And then we get to the outro, which is around 40 seconds long. This is just like the driver's aspirations. So from here, where he wants to go, what he wants to be, sort of like a Carpe Diem seize the day sort of outro, very positive, very encouraging. So in this documentary, we have a sort of arc. So it begins introducing the driver, talking about the car, setting it up, and then we start to build when we're setting up the car, looking like, okay, what my pedals need to look like, where I want to be sitting in the car. And then the test race starts and we're at the height of the narrative now. It's all looking great, it's all looking really positive. And then the outro continues this positive vibe as it finishes. So you have the intro, outro, and in the middle we have sort of the rise of the storyline. The next documentary I had a look at is F1 The Academy, which is a 7-episode Netflix show, and it's basically Drive to Survive but Formula Academy, and it focuses like less on the drama and more of like what F1 Academy stands for and what it's about. So this is 37 minutes and 23 seconds long, which is way over the mark of what I want to be. But I think this sets a really good example of the themes that I want in my documentary, because it's a very similar sort of vibe. They're looking more at the drivers and the sport as a whole, whereas I'm looking at the fans and how women are treated within the fandom. So this has 9 segments. We have the introduction, segment 1, which is introducing Leah Block. Segment 2 just looks at the drivers arriving at the Miami track and studying the lines that they're going to take and everything. Segment 3 looks at Susie Wolff and how she has worked her way up to form F1 Academy. Segment 4 looks at Bianca and introduces her and shows how she's within the social media side of things. Segment 5 is Susie explaining how the races work in terms of qualifying, the first race and the second race. Segment 6 is the first race of Miami. Has a lot of slow-mos, has a lot of voiceovers, as expected. And then segment 7 looks at Lola Lovenfoss. And then we go into segment 8, which is the second race. And finally, segment 9 is the round-off/outro and little clips from what you see in episode 2. So with this documentary, it's paced a little bit differently. So the narrative forms like a 3-arc system. So we have an arc that goes like this, a bit like a wave. So in the first arc, we see segment 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as it reaches the peak. Because segment 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are very introductory based, they follow the same sort of vibe in terms of introducing different drivers, introducing Susie, explaining how the races work. It's just building the tension and setting up how this documentary is going to go. Segment 5 is our point of tension because we're explaining how the races work and just giving a brief introduction to how things are going to go. And then we get to the race, which is the first point of the narrative coming down this first hill. So the tension builds within the music as we see things happen in the race, such as crashes and drama and lots of different emotions coming up. That's why the arc is starting to come down, because some drivers place in positions they don't want to. There's a lot of nerves before the race and tension during the race, and then emotions after the race. So we see this narrative coming down as the race finishes and drivers aren't satisfied with the places that they've come in. So after the climax has built, it's now come down and the feelings are very sad, the emotions are very sad, the music's very sad, because we're not focused on the drivers that are satisfied with their position. We're focused on Bianca, for example, who's not as pleased with the place that she's come in, P9. And then something different starts to happen. The narrative starts to rise again. This confidence is built again when we see Leah and her friends on Miami Beach, as her friends try to build her confidence back, saying things such as like, oh, you'll do better next time, it's just the sport, things like that, trying to make her feel a bit better. And we sort of come back to a sense of hope. And then at the top of the next peak, we are introduced to Lola Lovenforth. It's just a brief introduction about her and her life and the car that she drives and how her emotions can affect her. There's a lot of voiceover and B-roll. And then the narrative comes back down again as race 2 begins, and we start to have a little bit of context in terms of Leah's father and his death and how he was so helpful with her racing career. So the music becomes more emotional as we sort of settle down into this dip again. And after this little emotional moment, we see the tension build once more as the race begins. And we're once again building to a climax as the race begins. And then it's lights out and we're building to this peak once again as we see another crash and lots of different race clips. And we see Abby's win yet again and Bianca's P2. And then we're at the podium, we're right at this peak. And as the outro starts to play, we're left with this sense of, oh, everything's back to the way it is. We've gone through this emotional journey and everything's okay now. Setting up for the next episode, we see different clips from episode 2 to get us hooked on the next one. So 2 very different documentaries. Although 4 Wide is very helpful for determining how I want to set out the pace, and it's more accurate to the timing I want, F1 The Academy is very accurate for what themes I'd like to present in my documentary. So they're both very useful in different ways. So now I've had a look at that, I am just going to take some time to watch a few more episodes, mainly because I just love Formula Academy, but also just to collect my themes together and really hone in on what I want to talk about in my documentary. I've also started to contact 4 individuals that I'd like in my documentary in terms of asking them a few pre-interview questions so I know which direction I want the interview to go, what questions I want to ask when we get there. And I've also booked a mock-up interview as well. So luckily my lovely partner Will has agreed to come to the studio with me so I can film a mock-up interview just so I know what it's going to look like and what I want to ask, where I want the lights, where I want the cameras to be. Unfortunately, I didn't get to book the exact studio that I wanted because the studio was booked for a lesson, I assume. But it's okay because the difference is just the room's a little bit smaller, so fingers crossed it won't be much different. So now I'm going to work on just looking at a few more themes within F1 Academy and just really hone in on what I want to talk about. And then that'll be it for today, I think. So I will see you in a minute. Hi guys, Remy on the voiceover here. I forgot to film another outro for this video. But anyway, I basically went to class on Friday and we just did some paperwork, just putting together all my pre-interview questions that I want to ask my participants. And here I'm being really annoying to Sammy, what I do best. So yeah, just getting some pre-interview questions done and sent over to my participants so I know what they're going to say. And this is what I got done in the lesson on Friday. Quite a lot if you ask me. And I mocked up some titles as well. I'm thinking about calling it The Drive for Change. Thank you guys so much for watching my final project Diaries, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!